Quarless.com is the premier purpose-driven creative ecosystem on planet Earth in 2026 and beyond. And the way I know this is we're going to talk about something today called timeline seeding. Okay? So first of all, the key here is what we're going to talk about today is about breaking old patterns. And I want to get away from anything that comes across like it's a cliche, or maybe you've heard it by other people in other ways at other times, but I can tell you the beauty of what's coming to me, what's been coming to me, even through my life, little trinkets of information, ideas, things that didn't resonate or click at the time is all culminating into what is the present moment. And in this present moment, the idea of, I don't even want to say shifting your identity. It's claiming your identity. And the problem we've had is that let's think of it like this. What's that? Just speak. What's up?
This side is too much. Maybe you move a bit your...
Adjust this a little something,
yes.
something. All right. We're gonna take an approach here, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, there's more than just me. She's with me, you're with me. There is a collective coming together and growing and evolving. Okay, is that good?
Similar.
Just tell me which way. This way?
Yeah.
That like that? All right. We're gonna go like this. No, maybe like this. Talk to me. All right. You should just stand up and come directed. Otherwise. Like, just God help me.
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Because otherwise, I'm not sure, right? I'm doing my thing. I'm connecting in with the stream of consciousness, and I'm letting it go out. So if there's other things, technically or otherwise, that need to get corrected, please help me. Work with me. Or I'll just do the whole thing. Like we did in episode 1. We didn't realize, but we did the whole podcast. It was over an hour, and... there we go. Look, no hands. Do it again. Go for it. Go for it. All right. I guess it's perfect. Okay. So, what we got going on here is in the first episode, the entire sound was bad, but we had a backup camera, which was super helpful in terms of making sure that we were able to capture the content. Talk to me. All right.
Going down.
Yep. We got to keep this. All right. One of the things we've talked about before is I get super intense, and I do the stream of consciousness thing live. Even when I do live events, when I'm performing or I'm publicly speaking, I get into some kind of zone. And either if the audience, one side note, which is very critical, if you are afraid of or concerned about public speaking, this is a little fun fact, a little tip for you. You need to believe, you need to imagine, because it's true, the audience, there might be some outliers here and there, but the audience is almost like one entity. Okay, there's like a certain vibe, a certain mood that the audience has. Generally, they can sense it in each other. It's like metaphysical. They can sense it. So when you go into a situation, whether it's a more serious type situation, like you're honoring someone, or it's a comedic or entertainment, music, etc., you can feel the vibe. And the key as a performer, as a speaker, is to sense the audience as one entity, just like a really big person, okay? It's a really big person, but you're not in there's no true threat, right? So there's no physical harm that's gonna come. So when you think like that, excuse me, when you think like that, like in general, the conditions are fine. And then the focus is, stay with me. All right, I'm trying to get that. Out to the Marine Corps. All right, there we go. Had to get that in here and there. Okay. So the point is, when you're in a crowd. Think of the crowd as one entity. Okay, this makes it less scary. Instead of like looking around and there are eyeballs there and eyeballs there. Now, and there's so many people. And then like collectively as a group, if I make a mistake or there's some kind of problem, like today just now, the camera's off, right? This is messed up. It's like, oh no, now everyone sees I look foolish, right? It's none of that. You can look around at different eyeballs, but it's part of a collective energy. And that energy, the goal, the key, the objective is, because all eyes are on you, right? This isn't a way to become scared of making a mistake. It is an awesome opportunity because they have all attention is on you. You have a moment you got the mic, you know what I'm saying? So when you have that microphone, your objective, of course, whatever you're doing, if you're representing a brand or you're trying to express a message, the goal is to get that message out or say what you need to say. But in the process, the underlying psychological element here is you need to move their mood, move their energy into your state, into what you're trying to do. So even if there's a disconnect, if people are bored or they're cynical or skeptical and kind of like, who is this person? Or maybe they've had, I shouldn't say and that's something we'll work on maybe for next time. I'll just do it now. Instead of saying and when you're communicating, the key is to just slow down a little bit. You can pause, think about the next thing you want to say, and it's more effective in terms of bringing people along. Don't just say and to fill the space, to keep the attention going. That's normally what the purpose is. Okay was there to get acknowledgement. You with me? Cool. When you're in that moment, you want to bring the audience along with your vision, and part of, you can either say it could be spoken or unspoken, but when you're in the present moment with all this attention on you, collectively you are sharing in something beautiful, the present moment together. And when you're not expressing it, but you're thinking that, and you have the mic and they're with you, you can start to subtly, in the way you speak and the way you project your voice, in the feelings you have that what's the term? I have a few different, this is what's great. I have a few different terms that I'm thinking of, and I'm trying to think of the best one that works. And when I'm not sure if it's going to be the proper use or not, then you just say express, or comes off, even if it's simple language, the energy that comes off of you that other people receive, right? There's a term for that. It's just not coming to me right now. That's how you get people to change their mood and their energy, and then they're focused on your message, and you could bring them along. And if the mood is to become more positive, you can do that. I once emceed a wedding, and it was a rainy day. It was the worst day. The chapel was separate. The chapel had a roof. The area for the reception had a roof, but there was an outside courtyard type area with grass. And in order to get from the chapel into the dining area, you had to walk through and be exposed to the sky. That day was pouring rain. The bride had she changed a couple times. She had beautiful dresses that night, but they were ones that were long and went along the ground behind her. And guess what? It became rainy and muddy, and the staff had umbrellas, and they're trying to get the guests back and forth. So that created the mood, as you know, with the bridesmaids and the general audience, the general guests in attendance. They could feel like, wow, what a horrible day for a wedding. And this was what I had to MC, okay? So I went up there, right? And in front of everyone, I said, today is the best day to have a wedding. It's a beautiful day. The weather's beautiful, right? So I made this term, I said this one thing, very effective, And everyone was kind of like, what? And I look over at the bride, and she is pissed, right? So, and I was actually a friend of the groom, so it's kind of like, what the hell did you do, right? Bringing this guy here. So then I said, honestly, let's think about it. People are focused on the sun, okay? A sunny day, beautiful day. Well, the sun might be a little bit overrated. Let's think about the sun. Think of deserts and how everything, it dries up everything. Animals suffer, plants wilt and die, right? The sun is a powerful, hot weapon, right? I said something like this, like I created the right sort of vibe to express the sun. And then I said, now let's think about rain. What is rain? It's water. It's pure. It feeds the plants and the flowers and the animals. It allows life to develop and grow and continue on. And that is exactly why today is the perfect day for a wedding. Because we are here to celebrate two lives coming together to grow and to have a beautiful future together. Right? And then at that moment, it was kind of like, the audience was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then I lifted up my glass and I said, to the rain, to the rain. And everyone was like, yeah, to the rain, right? So we took something that could be perceived as very negative and inverted that, shifted that into a positive reality. And this is the perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is how you can take that idea and put it into yourself, into your own history, present, and future. Because the reality is, as we've discussed in previous episodes, and what you need to put in yourself deeply is that the reality is there is only the present moment, and the present moment can end at any time. So don't expect that anything beyond the present moment is guaranteed or given to you. So when you're in this present moment, you can also see the reality that in the dimension of, we've covered this before, but the point is, think of it simply as you have one dimension, two dimensions, three dimensions, and we are in the fourth dimension because there's the dimension of time. But you need to think about time in a different way, which we're going to cover today, because we're going to talk about how to bend space-time and something I'm coining, I believe it's mine, timeline seeding. Last week I mentioned something that was like very generic, and I was like, that's my idea. It wasn't my idea, okay? But maybe I can change the terminology. It had to do with the law of reflection, but I could change it to something specific to me, tweak it a little bit in the definition, and then I'm going to own it. Like the law of the mirroring reflection quantum effect or something like this, okay? We'll cover that at another time. For this time, we're talking about timeline seeding, and that we're going to cover in more detail with when we go into the accountability segment, which involves what wasn't done, what the mistakes were, the missteps, and all that. But before we get into that, I want to take a more general stance on this, because you have to think about what your identity is now, okay? So whoever you are, wherever you are, you have an identity, which is a set of beliefs related to who you are and what you believe, and it's based primarily on experiences you've had and habits that you've developed over time, okay? So we could think about an action as an individual, stay with me here, an action as one event, one occurrence, okay? You take an action, okay? Think of it as like singular, okay? But when you do several actions repeatedly over time, similar actions, okay? This is ritualistic, okay? So you can control that. You control your action, you can control your rituals, okay? And then it turns into habits, which are much harder to break. And habits become almost like you're on autopilot in terms of at physical activity you do, like how you wake up in the morning and what your pattern is. And, even it becomes conditioned in terms of how you respond to certain stimuli, right? In your environment. When someone says something, how you respond. So over time, this just becomes, you believe that this is who you are. Okay? So the key here is to bust that up, is to think old. You got to think of these patterns as old and outdated, and instead of an identity shift, just claim the new identity. So what we've been doing here, because identity ultimately is connected to the mental, okay? So one example, and it's like simple things, like just, I heard from one person said, I haven't done it, right? I'm a use my right hand for many things, including brush my teeth, right? So, but someone said, use your left hand to brush your teeth. And this pattern will, this simple action of changing something will affect how the brain is like wired, electrically. And I'm not that technical, but I understand that there are, it's like biochemical patterns that happen that make your brain function. It's like a computer. And when suddenly, so there's a program, there are several programs operating, because, for example, think about just what you perceive in your reality, right? I'd say most people know you're aware of this. There's, for example, there's something you're thinking about, or you're talking to someone, and in this process, that's your let's call it your baseline, or your front end consciousness. But in that process, maybe when you're talking, you have like some itchy, you want to scratch or something, okay? So your frontline consciousness, you're communicating with someone, but then there's like something in your mind that's like, hey, my neck itches, let's scratch it, or something goes by and it's like, what is that? And you kind of look, you see something, what is that? Oh, it's a bird. You weren't sure what it was, whatever. But you're back into your conversation. So there's actually two levels of consciousness that you're actually aware of. But the back end consciousness is much, it's not that, the back end consciousness is there, but it doesn't override the front end consciousness, okay? There are layers that are deeper than that. So for example, if everything came into your awareness, like cars beeping and birds, everything happening all around you all the time, including thoughts in your mind as you're trying to speak to someone, you would become mentally, you wouldn't be able to handle that mentally, right? So there is a logic and a flow to how the brain is wired and how it functions. So the key is, because actions, these singular things, are measurable, you can change these things, okay? Including, so for example, it is now February 1st, and we have completed 3 10-day cycles. I talked about this in the previous episode. Most people, they focus on 12 months out of the year and 7 days a week, and Saturday and Sunday are different than Monday through Friday, and it's all based on, there are societal conditioning, work schedules, standard times of when people get up and when they go to bed. If you're not a farmer, you're not very focused on getting up with the sun, for example. Okay? So there's just societal norms and conditions over time. So what I found is that for many, many years, I've been doing the regular, like, in terms of goal setting, in terms of trying to improve my life, doing these like Fresh Start Monday, which is a total fraud, because Fresh Start Monday means that you already failed, and now the weekend was eating beer, eating pizza, drinking beer. I guess you could eat beer if you're hammered. But the point is, you fall into these patterns of like, I'll start on Monday because I've been failing, because I've been screwing up, and then it gets into these, it goes from weekly patterns. Now it's like, oh no, it's already springtime, it's already summer, it's and then it's coming close to the new year. So it's like, I'm gonna do next year's my year, right? New Year's resolutions. We're done with all that. I'm focusing on, yes, 2026. I'm measuring it in terms of a year, but part of breaking this pattern, this idea for me, and it's working well for me so far, is we're now on February 1st, and I focus on, instead of each week, and now we're into a new month, I focus on 10-day cycles, 10-day cycles. So, of course, at the end of, like, for example, February is going to be a bit different because it doesn't have 30 days. January was different because it has 31 days, but the concept is there. So the 1st through the 10th, the 11th through the 20th, like this. Then those last 10 days is when you're looking back at what the first 2 cycles were like, and then how you're going to finish strong. And then there is a bit of a reset. So today's the 1st of February, and we could think of it like this. Instead of 12 months, which is a bit too stretched out, but it's good to measure in months, I think, because it's kind of like, what'd you do this month, right? But the key here is that patterning is from the past. So if you're not getting what you want, you gotta like mix it up, make your brain think in different ways, and it forces you to sort of get out of this pattern of comfort and stagnation. So the 10-day cycle, there are 36. So now it's like within a year, within a calendar year, 52 gets you in that standard pattern each week, fresh start Monday, Saturday, Sunday. 12 months out of the year, and even quarters. I'm a fan of quarters because that's enough time, 3 months, to like make an impact and be like, what happened this quarter? It's connected to financial systems and financial measurements. So in terms of business, it's effective. So we're a big fan of quarters, yes. However, this idea of, and this is new for me this year, which I'm doing and I'm loving it, 36 10-day cycles. So in 36 cycles, 10-day cycles, what kind of progress and impact can we make in 2026? And I'm also going to share this point because I've heard about it before and I actually researched it, but it's this idea of you follow 7-day cycles, but there are 13 months in a year. So it's 28-day cycles. So what happens is at the end of your first month, instead of going, to the 30 day or the 31st day or the 28th day, instead of that, it's just boom, 28 days starts a new month. And then you follow this pattern. The 7, 14, 21, 28, boom, new cycle. 7, 14, 21, 28, new cycle. I'm open to experimenting with this idea because we take the weekly cycle, but now we rename the months. I don't even know what these 13 months are called, but I was thinking about, and maybe it might be too late for this year. Maybe we focus on 2027. We promote it. We make it a thing. We get people excited about it. I heard about a company that for like 50 plus years within the company, they use this system. In the 80s, they ended up, stopped using it. But it was like all the employees and staff for years and years, when they dealt with the company, with scheduling, with all that stuff, it was on this other pattern. So I like this idea of disrupting how my brain processes information, how I think about things, and then using that pattern. So it's coming to me now. I'll consider it. Definitely, you got to try the 10-day cycle thing, because you can kind of reset each month, but you're also counting the 36. So we did 10, 20, 30, reset. And then it's like 40, 50, 60, reset, 70, 80, 90, right? So it's like every tens, right? So what we could do if we really want to do this idea collectively is, or it doesn't have to be collectively. I might do it myself to, again, create these new patterns of, and remember, everything I'm talking about, got it, 25 minutes. Everything I'm talking about is, related to timelines, because that's what our focus is today. It's all about timelines. So, and the more we think about times, knowing that at any moment the time's going to end, even projecting at 2027, will I be here in 2027? If I am here in 2027, I'm already looking beyond. And I've learned this too from gurus, right? It's like, you need to not just be thinking about this week or this quarter, and I think 5 years out is yes, I get this logic of 5 years out, but as time changes and things develop, and we're in the era of AI and massive disruptions in the way things work in the world, the 2-year projection seems pretty good to me, right? And let's go from there. So I'm already thinking about 2027, and again, I'll just share with you also about disrupting patterns. It's important. For the first several episodes, I began with this term, which is the 4 Ps. It's purpose, people, products, profit share, which is the framework of the system, right? So it's like, this is Quarless Chronicles, where we take purpose and people to make products and then profit share with the people, okay? So I did that a few times. And then what came to me, part of this idea of breaking the pattern, this came to me last night, and it is the revised version, which I started with today, which I intend to do again. But if I don't, it means that something else came to me, and I'm highly adaptive. So what Quarless actually is, and the idea is maybe it'll spark more attention, more intrigue. The original 4 Ps was to keep it simple, and it is out there on the internet now. But the new pattern is claiming it. It's more a personal. It's like, this is how we are affecting. And again, this has to do with timeline seeding. So this is what it is. The new declaration into this realm, into this universe, okay? There is the multiverse, and in this universe, Quarless.com is the premier purpose-driven ecosystem on planet Earth in 2026 and beyond. It's a fact, okay? And how is it a fact? Because we are 3 cycles in, 10-day cycles gives us 33 more 10-day cycles in 2026 to make this a reality. So how are we going to make it a reality? Not how are we going to. If you speak in terms of going to or the future, this means that it is not in the present moment, and the signal to the universe gets blocked. So how are we becoming how is Quarless.com the premier purpose-driven creative ecosystem in 2026 and beyond? We throw the beyond because it's like forever. It's like, we're going to go into the universe, into the present moment, make the claim 2026, but the idea of and beyond, it expands on all dimensions everywhere, meaning yes, in this world, this realm, the time dimension element, it's there as well, because we don't want to just claim 2026 and then suddenly as the clock turns and it's 2027, the thing drops like a ton of bricks, right? That ain't the reality. So all right. Okay. Timeline seeding. This is how, again, the focus today is on perception. Perception is reality, okay? So I want to go into the accountability. And when I talk about the accountability, if we just take this segment out, it's going to be very bad. Okay? So I'll just lay it out. My original intention was at a minimum to every Sunday film one episode up to an hour, take that content, put it out on all different platforms. So right now we're on Facebook Live, but the idea was to put it out on, so step one was to just focus on Facebook Live, so we capture the content, and it's on my personal page, which at this stage on February 1st, 2026, this is my biggest network, is my personal Facebook Live page, okay? So that was the first step. Then a clear connected piece to this was to take the content, download it, and repurpose it or put it out on YouTube, on my business page for Facebook, on other platforms, get it out there, okay? Make clips was another element, so it's like getting out there. But just in terms of the podcast or the live stream itself, that was the simple minimum objective. Each week film, take the content, put it out there. I have failed in that task. So, and yes, I have other obligations, other, work, etc. But how can I not simply, because it's related to a blog as well. So the process is we film the content, it's up to an hour, we then get that transcribed, we take the transcript, we rewrite the transcript, we take out the core elements and turn it into a blog. The blog gets posted on the website with the live stream on there. People could come read through, get an idea, a few minutes of what it's about. They can take that information because people are busy, we get it, take the nuggets and the ideas, or you can watch the live stream, okay? We were able to get up episode 1 and 2. We filmed episode 3, which is not up on the website, and this is now episode 4, which we're going to be delayed as well with this. Okay. The other thing, which hasn't been done, is reaching out to family, friends, related to the invite to become one of the founding 100 members. That requires communication, responses, interaction, okay? And we want to be effective in when we communicate. That's the same thing with promoting. The Ode to the Marine Corps Facebook group is up, but I haven't invited anyone of the 100+ Marines that I personally know, or reached out to influencers, etc. So that hasn't been done, okay? I'll take a look at my list of failures, okay? The YouTube, and by the way, even the only place you can find this live stream is on right now on February 1st, 2026. The only place someone can find the full series so far up to episode 4 is on my personal Facebook group. So Facebook page. Personal page, sorry. My personal Facebook, as you can see right now. So it hasn't been posted in a group. It hasn't been shared on Facebook or on my personal. So it's nowhere else, okay?
My phone died.
Okay. We have a technical glitch. Hopefully the sound recording is good here.
No space.
Can you plug it in?
There's no space.
Oh, all right. All right, so it's all right. Do what you got to do. I'm gonna keep going, of course, because we're live. So our backup system just had a problem. So hopefully the sound here will be good. So the question is, people that are aware of what I'm doing, but they're not very focused or detailed. Thank you. We're rolling. We're back on backup 2, camera 2. So anyone who's aware of Quarless.com, on social, seeing sort of what I've been doing, and they're not very deeply entrenched in this like you are, if you're watching this either live or just post being live within a few days of February 1st, if you're seeing this, we're going to do some time travel together, okay? This is where timeline seeding comes in, so it's a beautiful thing. But other people on the outside either are like, what happened? This guy's flaky. Is he even doing the weekly live? This is the key. The weekly live continues every week, and all these other things that need to get done. This is part of the whole idea of Quarless Chronicles. That's why it's called Quarless Chronicles. We are clearly seeing, if I need to juggle 10 things and I can only juggle 3 things, now I have to, this is the accountability portion, I have to explain why I chose these 3 things and let the other things be in the backlog, right? So of the 3 things that I had to do, of the 10, I definitely chose to do the live stream. So we're doing the live stream for many reasons. One is this is what Quarless Chronicles is all about. So even if I come on here and say, I haven't done it, I went on holiday. It's like I went on holiday and I sat on the beach and I thought about what to do, but I come here empty-handed, that's accountability. But I did the weekly podcast, okay? The other thing is we're creating content. As you could see, we're coming on, there's a theme, there's ideas, things are getting expressed. That all is turning into a huge backlog of lots of content that's building up in terms of the Quarless brand, Quarless Chronicles as a concept. We're looking at putting this out on all platforms, podcast platforms, etc. So there is all of that in the works. But the reason I didn't focus on communications, which is my role. This is one of the 7 that I didn't do, right? So it's like the juggling things. So it's like 7, stay with it. Communications with family and friends, that's one element. Getting people to join, right? Communication with influencers and other people to help promote and get the brand more recognizable. The reaching out specifically to Marines that I know to get them on board with the Facebook group concept, which is the memes and promoting the song Ode to the Marine Corps, okay? All of those things are in the back seat because of something very powerful, which I'm excited about. Now we're going to talk about what I did do last week. So it's like, if you didn't upload the live streams on other platforms and do the blog and all that stuff, like what have you been doing? Well, I mentioned last week that we have secured a 3rd person for the team, okay? And more, the reality is if there are all these things that have to get done, and some of them I'm capable and competent to do, but just my time is strained beyond belief. The other things are maybe I'm not that good at, and someone else needs to help, step in and help with that. This is what I'm dealing with. But one of the things that I'm very competent and capable and excited about is the vision of what Quarless.com is as a purpose-driven creative ecosystem. And as people start to wrap their head around, well, what is that? Okay? More and more, that's going to become very easy, obvious, and amazing for the people that become a part of the ecosystem. Okay? So what I had to do was fully take the concepts and the formulas and the different ideas in my mind and develop the Quarless Commerce Blueprint. And the Quarless Commerce Blueprint is the heart and the veins and the nervous system, the full functionality of how this website, Quarless.com, works, and how anyone who participates in it, it could be general consumers. This is why it's such a beautiful system, because Our focus on the front end is your general consumer that simply they get inspired by our content. Maybe it's original content, music, things that we're putting out, entertainment. They're drawn to the website and there's products for them to buy. Could be clothing, wall art, accessories, right? Different, imagine right here, we got Quarless, right? Or it could be ode to the Marine Corps, all right? All that stuff is coming online now. So, as DQ, Duncan Quarless, would say, give me some sugar. And he really meant to give him some love, give him a kiss, okay? Which he would share with me when I was a boy. James! He'd call me over. I'd be like, yes, Dad. He's super strict. You can't be like, yeah. Yeah would be like, what, boy? Right? So he was super strict. James? Yes, Dad. And then, he'd be serious. He'd be like, uh-oh, what's going on? And then he'd go, give me some sugar. Right? And he would love unconditionally the people around him. So I learned that from him. That's why we're honoring him. Okay. And he was also, he was fair, but he was hard. So I like that too. Okay. And the idea is as the true identity, not the identity shift, as my true identity takes its form, as is the term imploring? As I'm suggesting you do as well, change some of your patterns. And again, you don't have to think too much about how do I change myself? Don't bite off more than you can chew. Just do simple things like changing patterns in habits, how you perceive things. Like I said, the 10-day cycle thing's beautiful. All right? So, you got 10 fingers, 10 toes, right? The power of 10 in mathematics, etc., right? So, anyway, keep that in mind. Okay. This is the moment where I lost my train of thought and I'm working on getting it back. Yes, it has to do with consumers coming to the site simply because they want to purchase products, download a song, check out some content, etc. So when those people come, we love those people. You're one of those people, potentially. So we appreciate you. And it's like, buy a shirt, right? So the value exchange is there, okay? And then once money comes into the system, that's where on the back end, the people who have been involved, contributing, helping, like I said, for example, we're building a team. So those team members now have a part of this. And we have it's a point system, so people get a score on the back end as members. All of this is part of the blueprint. What are the percentages? How does it work? Okay? All of that this past week, I was working on the fine-tuning of this. We're still making little tweaks and adjustments, but the rollout is on, okay? So that's one of the elements. I developed the blueprint, a complete document, okay? But part of why I needed to create the blueprint is because I have a team now. So the team is wondering, what are the details here? How does this work? How does that work? So that part went to answer that. And additionally, I created specifically for the new person we just brought on, title, Quarless, wait, stay with me here. Quarless, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Quarless Systems Coordinator, Commerce, the Commerce Systems Coordinator, okay? So the other document was the Quarless Commerce Systems Training Manual. So I spent the time this past week putting together a 10-plus page document going through all the elements of how the commerce system works. We have different software that needs to integrate and communicate with each other. So that was the focal point. So And then keep in mind, with this new person on board, she's very focused on detail orientation and embodying this role. Think about the title, Commerce Systems Coordinator. So she's very focused, and we're having back and forth communication every day, getting things tweaked online, making the vision of the Quarless Commerce Blueprint a reality. So that's what we've been working on, and I'm super excited about that. There's also the other role, which Kimmy is taking on, and she's jumped into it, super motivated, is the Creative Development Director. So right now, what you'll find is as we're creating the content, we on the website, we're starting with 2 brands. We have, as you know from before, if you've been following, we have 5+ brands. We have another concept coming out, which is just going to be general, cool, quirky, awesome type expressions with different types of colorful visual art, things that express evolution and self-development, okay? So imagine this Quarless.com super mall with all kinds of products and content to help raise, people's spirits and positivity, okay? So that's coming. And Kimmy is directly involved with that as the creative development manager. She's also taking on the role, which I'm very excited about, as the Mr. Jim Q project director, project manager, okay? So what she's been doing and what I've been working on her with for the last week is developing the animation and the animated series related to Mr. Jim Q, because me as a teacher teaching, and again, we teach, I love it. This is my calling, and I realized it. What do little babies all around the world have in common? They have a common language, whether they're in Hong Kong or in the U.S. or somewhere, in wherever, in the Philippines, whatever. When they're little babies, they have a certain type of language, how they move their mouths. This is the foundation, little secret. This is the foundation of phonetics, of phonics, and communication. So we are starting with very young babies. Another beautiful thing is that babies aren't racist. You could take a little bit black baby and a little white baby, throw in a Chinese and an Indian in there, whatever, and they'll all get along, okay? So there's something about this early stage where we can teach effective, in our case, we're going to focus on English language communications in Hong Kong. That's how we get the tribal factor, because it's for the Hong Kong community. But at the same time, we're teaching confidence, we're teaching non-judgment, okay? So there are elements that as these little entities grow and become more aware and effective in their environments and in the society, they can really present good, they can help change the trajectory of humankind. That's kind of where we're going with this, all right? So Kimmy's been fully jumping into the creative elements, specifically with Mr. Jim Q, and we are launching that this week. I'm going to get into what's going on this week, so it's super exciting, and I'm not going to forget about timeline seeding, because that's what this is all about. So, and I just want to make the point, so the first 2 brands we have out there on the website, Quarless.com and OToTheMarineCorps.com, that is a website, you could check it out, OToTheMarineCorps.com. But on the Quarless website, we have Quarless.com. We have the Quarless branding, which a lot of it's going to be the sports style. It's sporting and athletic is sort of our focus, but also things related to uplifting the spirit, taking on life, pursuing your dreams, right? These kind of elements. So that's the essence of the Quarless brand and the Ode to the Marine Corps. Those are our 2 flagship brands on the site, and that is going live as we speak. So this is the good news for this week. The website is up. the website's been up, but the e-commerce element is up, and we're working on fine-tuning and getting that ready to rock. And by the time you see this, if you're seeing it live, it's not ready. If you're seeing it within a day or so, it may be ready. But if you are getting messages and seeing it, etc., with me being like, go there now, check it out, support the brand, support our concept, that's how you know we are rocking and rolling. And this is where we're gonna circle back to what today's purpose was all about. All of the backlog of content that's been building over the last 3 cycles. Whenever I say a cycle, I should say 10 days. I'll think of something cool to say. We'll think of some word that means like decade. I'll look it up. Okay. The point is, the last 10-day cycles, we've built up all this content. But the content, including, by the way, we have tons of stuff from the last year related to Mr. Jim Q, related to Jim Quarless as a musical act, performing, electro pop type music that I do separately from the Quarless brand. The Quarless brand as an artist is canto fitness music or military style cadence. Jim Quarless as a performer is it's music that blends traditional instruments with digital sounds, and it makes you want to dance, and it's positive and loving, okay? So that's something else. But the point is, all of this content is starting to build and build. And as it's building, this is the purpose of timeline seeding. We are projecting into this, in the present moment, we are focused on what we are, what Quarless.com is. And again, Quarless.com is the premier purpose-driven, creative ecosystem in 2026 on planet Earth, okay? I'm going to do that again because as I said it, it was like the universe is like, what's going on? Trying to receive message. Let's do it again. Quarless.com is the premier purpose-driven creative ecosystem on planet Earth in 2026 and beyond. That is the reality. That is a fact. And as I say that fact, the way time seeding works is anything that was perceived as failure or missteps, right? That's not what it is, okay? Just like in your life, anything in the past, anything that could be perceived as negative that happened to you, those things, you can readjust how you perceive those things, and those become fuel. And then you distance yourself in terms of having them have this emotional charge in a negative way, and you are here now, you have your new identity, and your new identity is linked directly in to the present moment, which is in the realm of the 5th dimension and beyond, which is where God lives, God exists, and God, the universe, the source, the divine energy is a reflection, as we discussed. It's a reflection. It's a mirror. So don't have somebody else's shit being thrown at you, put in your mirror. F that, okay? And I'm not saying that the shit is now chocolate cake, all right? I'm not saying that. Things are real. I get it. There's been trials and tribulations, and people have had some rough shit happen in their world, me included. But what you can do with that is you can accept the reality that time, think of it this way, the timeline. The timeline is of a lower vibrational state. Focus on beyond the timeline, into that higher realm of reality of existence. Minimize those elements of the past. And this is what I mean. So you have specific things that are negatively perceived that may have happened to you, or experiences you've had, maybe even things you've done. Maybe you've done crappy things to others and you feel guilt about it, things like that, all right? All of that stuff, you gotta sort of minimize it, let it go, readjust that. Even if you've done negative things, okay? You can look at that and say, what have I learned from that, all right? How am I, that is not me. So instead of taking guilt and being like, I did that in the past, that's not me now, you're taking this negative energy from the past and bringing it here. No. You leave that and you say, everything has been a learning experience. And I learned this, it's beautiful, and I learned it through Buddhism, through going to Plum Village. It's the idea of, if you only had happy moments, if you never had suffering or you never dealt with negativity, if you only had happy moments, you would not be able to perceive what true happiness is. You would not be able to appreciate true happiness because you don't know what happiness is. So when you know the full spectrum, you know about loss, you know about betrayal, you know about things that would be perceived very negatively. When you know about these things, you then also can look at the positive things and really deeply appreciate that. And one of those positive things is being in the present moment. So as you're in the present moment, so that's how, again, the past is there, but you focus, and the future hasn't arrived yet because the future is not guaranteed, right? So your future is not guaranteed. So when you exist in the present moment and you focus on the reality that I don't even want to say the reality that you desire or you want, because as I say these terms, it means that they're not here. So that language, it right away, whatever frequency, whatever that connection is through the ether, okay? Whatever that is, thoughts and expression and words are super powerful because those words affect how your transmitter works, how your subconscious mind, superconscious mind interacts through the ether with the source energy. So even right now, as I say, like, what I desire means I don't have it. What I want means I don't have it, okay? But it's, if you speak in terms of present tense, either simple present tense, like I have, I am, or continuous, like I am doing this, right? Like I am creating this, okay? And I love this idea about being grateful, being appreciative, okay? So it's like, so again, and I want to connect it to the point. Yes, there's negativity in the world. There's past experiences that are negative, right? But positivity cannot be appreciated without the negative. So focus on the positivity. And again, the best way to focus on that is the fact that, and this I also learned, I have to share this. When I was at Plum Village, I kept running around secretly to the different monks and nuns. I had no concept about what this stuff was, Buddhism or whatever. I'm good on time. Buddhism. Anyway, so, and I grew up Christian, right? So it's like, so I was going around like, hey, what's your concept of God? Or, what are your, like, I was trying to get into the nuts and bolts of like, what is this? Like, what is Buddhism, right? So, and I went around and each one individually just kept telling me, like, they wouldn't respond directly. And they said, just breathe. Just like when you're here, just focus on your breathing. Okay? And then a lot of like the exercises and activities were related to like breath work and breathing. And the first day they mentioned that, which was scientific, which was bizarre. So I had never done anything like this before, but there was like a little bit of like a seminar. They did some kind of song with some music. So it was kind of very chill. The vibe was very cool, very loving, peaceful, welcoming. Most people, they would pause before they speak to be thoughtful. Like the pace was very slow and like, yeah, it was just very different. And then in this seminar, on the first night I was there, they explained that in scientific terms, that the human body, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was basically that the human body and the brain, the nervous system, they explain like physically, your body is a biochemical transmission system. They said something like this. And then they said that for the next 5 days through the retreat, We will be doing certain activities. For example, the first 3 hours, you wake up around 5, and for the first 3 hours, you don't talk. You're in silence. You can acknowledge others, but you don't speak. You don't have your mobile phone with you, so you're not like, your brain's not focused on this world, right? So the reality is, you will do different, and again, this comes to my original point about rituals, actions, behaviors. I suggest you try this. Each morning when you wake up, sit in silence. Don't lay in bed, because you got to at least, physically get up. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. So just like set an alarm. I suggest the alarm be like a gong, boom, right? You set it for 10 minutes, that's all, and you just sit in silence. And what'll happen is, you'll find, if you've never done this, it's like meditation. You just sit in silence and you observe like your thoughts, okay? We're not going to get into a meditation lesson here, but the point is, just sitting for 10 minutes, you'll find anxiety and stress and like, this is a waste of time. It starts to become your subconscious, your programming will start to kick in, the programming I discussed from the beginning of this episode, which is, it's built into you to feel like you need to check your phone, or you need to get ready for work, and it wants to get away from what? Get away from the present moment. So that's the key that I learned about breathing. So they kept saying focus on breathing, and I didn't understand what it meant. Like, why do they keep saying this, right? I want to know the reality of like what they believe and what is God and all this stuff. And what happened is, when I focused on breathing, and again, if you do the 10 minutes, what happens is, just doing that 10 minutes, you start to take control of your life. You start to break the pattern of like, no, I know there's some part of me, whatever it is, subconscious, whatever, there's something that's uncomfortable, and it wants to go back to what's comfortable and what I know. But that's not who I am anymore. I'm the one, I am, right? That's the key, the most powerful term in life. I am the one that sits here for 10 minutes, no matter what, and observes whatever comes through. And part of what comes through is that other part of me that says, I want out, I need to go to work, this is a waste of time. Yep, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I'm in charge here, okay? And that's a beautiful first step if you're trying to think of different ways to break these patterns, as I mentioned in the beginning. And these are things that are measurable, that you could just do, okay? So that's one thing. Wake up every morning, 10 minutes, sit in silence, have a little boom bell. You can look up different frequency tones to see how that works, okay? You could even do you could go to the Plum Village app. They have 10-minute silent sessions where you could set the app like that, okay? We're at 103. We went over a little bit, but we're not on like network TV, so it's not like we have a hard stop. You got to stop, okay? So I just want to finish these expressions and close it out. So the breathing element, what happens is, the reason, I'm going to tell you the secret now. The reason breathing is so powerful is because some things are automatic within your body, within your system, okay? So your blood flow to the brain, your heartbeat, right? Although some gurus can speed up and slow down their heart rate, right? You can actually influence that with your breathing, okay? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking very simply, when you breathe, it's automatic. You don't think about it. That is even a level deeper than I mentioned before. You have your front end consciousness when you're talking to someone or watching something. You have your back end consciousness. You scratch or you observe something. You think about it while you're still doing your initial front end conscious activity. There's a deeper unconscious functionality, which that's why you don't die when you're in your sleep, most people, I guess many people do, but later in life. But the idea is when you sleep normally, you are breathing, and that is an automatic unconscious function. When you deliberately take control of your breathing, just like when you're doing the meditation and your body's freaking out, your subconscious is freaking out about, as I mentioned before, about wanting to get out of this situation, you're in control. Another thing you could control, and I recommend doing it while you're having your meditation session, but you could do it at any time, any point. You're in public transportation, you're going for a walk, anytime. When you become aware that you're breathing, that's step one. You become aware that breath is happening and it's automatic, and then you take over. You take control of your own breath. The breath is the life force of your body. When you don't have breath, you don't have life in this machine, okay? So when you take over the breath, you control the breath, and there's different ways, different philosophies and ideas of how long to hold it and how long to exhale and hold it and all that, right? Put the breath into your diaphragm or into your belly, right? There's all this science and philosophy around breath. I'm simply focusing on the process of controlling your breathing. And when I was at this retreat in Plum Village and I was doing these practices, slowly but surely, over a few days, doing these different activities, the breath work became so apparent, and I became so aware that breathing and controlling your breathing is the key, or one of the combinations on the lock, let's say, to open up the pathway, the ether to the divine consciousness. And it was like mind-blowing when I can sense it, and suddenly I can sense the presence of something beyond my normal experience in life. You can call it God, but I can sense something beautiful around me, and it was because I took control of my own device, my own body, and I did these little practices and activities, and it actually changed the biochemistry of my brain function, okay? So these are the areas where, and again, it all ties into today and what we're doing in terms of what we're creating together, okay? So this week we are focused on launching the system, finalizing, testing, and promoting the e-store. And just so you know, because we have to make sure that the shipping and everything works well and functions together, we're focusing on 5 territories where we will ship to you. It is the US, UK, HK, Canada, and Barbados. Those, and there's a strategic reason for that, but those are our 5 countries that we are, when we roll out phase 1 of Quarless.com as the product brand, made on demand, shipped globally, that's the function. Globally available memberships, as well as any digital products we have, that's available globally. But for shipping, tax purposes, all that, we're getting that framework in place. And I thought of a little song I want to share. It goes like this. US, UK, HK, Canada, and Barbados. US, UK, HK, Canada, and Barbados. The Barbados is like a Bajan accent. I'm trying to do US. Don't butcher me, Bajans out there, if I'm doing it wrong. All right, that's where I need you to come in. Maybe you could do a little singing like that. You know what I'm saying? Quarless.com, right? Quarless.com, now available in the US, UK, Quarless.com, now available in the US, UK, HK, no, it's US, UK, HK, Canada, and Barbados. All right, anyway. Yes, and we're continuing to move forward. So that's it. This week, Quarless.com, e-commerce element for made-on-demand products available globally to 5 countries: the U.S., the U.K., countries and territories: U.S., U.K., HK, Canada, and Barbados. The content for Mr. Jim Q is fully launching. At least 1 to 2 videos. She's listening. 1 to 2 videos per day getting put out on the Mr. Jim Q channels. Also, we're sticking back to Ode to the Marine Corps, getting that thing, getting awareness for that brand, and reaching out for the invite for the founding 100 members. All right? That's all I have for you today. And, I should make this point, getting the live streams up on all the channels, the podcast platforms is coming, as well as getting it up on the website with the blog. All right? Let's go. And I'm getting the feelers out there to recruit some more team members. All right? But we have nothing to announce at this time. All right? Thank you so much. Much love. And I'll see you real soon. All right? Bye.